Good morning and welcome to our Power Breakfast interview today. Now, this country would seem to be facing a serious challenge in terms of enforcement of the rule of law, from collapsing buildings to land grabs. The question at the center of all these activities is whether there are people enforcing the law as stated or there are exemptions to the rule of law. And to help us through that discussion is the chairman of the Law Society of Kenya, which is a statutory body set up by lawyers, a professional society, but also with mandate to advise the government on arising legal issues or matters of legal interest. Eric Mutua is our guest. Karibu, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we have had lots of controversy in the public recently.
Yes.
One is still ongoing, actually. Let's start with Langata.
Yes.
Land originally assumed to have belonged to a primary school, allocated, I think somebody would say legally, to a company.
Yes.
In the public eye, grabbed. Now it has been restored. Where are the chips not falling into place?
No, I think the statement that allocated legally it's not a right statement. Yes. I don't think because the allocation of public land can only be done by way of the government utilizing that property for the sake of the public, but not for private gain.
Oh, okay.
So in any situation or scenario where property has been alienated and allocated to a private individual or to a person for private gain, that allocation is termed as illegal. It's an illegal allocation of land.
Right. That's
Yes.
why this Langata one qualifies as an illegal allocation.
It qualifies.
Even if somebody has a title they acquired through.
Yes, even if you have a title to the property, the fact that that was public land which was allocated for private gain, that is an illegality.
How can it be? That land was originally prison.
Yes, from what I've read so far.
Yeah,
yes.
That was prison, women in prison was
Yes,
there.
yes.
And then some of it was given to Sunshine School, other Amref, then the primary school, because the primary school was in a... Then, why are we questioning about this land there, the particular one? Because other people have got it.
Well,
and they were given by President Moi, and he was the head of state.
No. Other people, when you say other people, what you've just mentioned,
I'm
those
saying,
are public institutions.
according to what I'm reading in the newspaper,
Yes.
I'm saying was given that land by President Moi.
Yes. If that is where you...
The private interest is still the thread of public interest.
It was for him to do whatever he wanted to do with it.
Well, from what I've just...
Moi gave land, public land to many people.
Yes, that is why we've, in the Constitution and in the current laws, we have talked about addressing historical land injustices. If we were to address those issues, and I think this is a proper opportunity for the country to address those issues head-on. If we were to address all those issues, if you allocated land illegally...
It cannot be illegal.
It is illegal.
If the president gives you land, how can it be?
It is illegal if the president performs an illegal act.
If he does, if we were to... And that has happened, by the way. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has filed thousands of cases with a view to having those parcels of land revert to the public. It has done that. In fact, in the year 2010, the whole of the year 2010, 2011, if you were keen to read the newspapers, you would see adverts carried out by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, where they have sued even the Commission of Lands for to have the parcels of land which were allocated to private individuals revert back to the public.
That's a serious quagmire.
Right,
because, for instance, ADC, Agricultural Development Corporation, or AFC, there are many ADC farms, many.
Yes.
We are not even talking police stations.
Yes.
I'm talking about agricultural land.
Yes.
That was hived up, prison land, plenty of it, taken and given to individual people. Are you telling me all that land is going back?
Let me tell you.
And some people have even sold to others.
So it depends on, that is a question which has to be debated. But I can tell you that there has been a situation, for instance, the judiciary land in Eldoret had been taken. Some part of the land had been taken. And the Law Society and other individuals went to court, and a decision was rendered where the court declared that that is land for the public and it ought to revert to the public.
Yeah.
So courts can declare that that land was illegally allocated and it should revert to the public.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then the consequences would follow for those who have acquired it.
The consequences will follow.
Owners,
If I bought from you, then the land is taken and there was a bona fide purchaser or a person who was genuine in his purchase, then you pay me. Then the
refund
person,
the money.
Yeah, it is a trace back. You trace back to the original person.
Right.
Yes.
An illegality. Okay, isn't there a time limitation on when this can happen? Because if you are in the third generation of this ownership succession,
yes.
retracing back would be quite chaotic. Is there a law limit to that?
Well, I agree with you, it will be chaotic, but in terms of limitation, the law and limitation on land is 12 years. That's what we are looking at. But this is not strictly on the 12 years limitation. Yes. If we are looking at an issue which has been addressed through the Constitution, that limitation does not come into play. It can still be traced back to the original person.
I don't see this happening because look here, look at Nairobi, for instance. Nairobi.
Yes.
Railway land, Kenya Railways. How much of it is gone? Railway used to have more land in Nairobi than anybody else.
You know,
then you have those civil servant houses.
The moment we start,
all these flats where we are, these places, all this where Sky, all that was public land belonging to the government. Civil service houses. They were given to the civil servants when they retired, or then they sold to people who have now built skyscrapers. Tell me how
the moment we start saying that since everybody has been allocated land, everybody has grabbed land, and since it is a chaotic scenario where we cannot be able to pick whom to ask to return the land and whom not to ask to return the land, then we will never address this issue of historical land grabbing.
Or rule of law.
And rule of law. And secondly, it will not prevent myself going to the Ministry of Land to seek for some land which is public land and to be allocated that land, because I'll know that since we have been unable to deal with the situation,
what is
then
public
we'll never
land? What
deal
is
with
public
it.
land? When the World Bank brought a structural adjustment program,
yes,
the civil servants were not supposed to be housed.
Yes.
So the land where they were, those houses which were civil servants, most of them were sold to them.
Yes.
By the government. That's public land. Is that public land?
Yes, it is, of course.
Then they bought it from the government.
Yes. Well,
then after that, they sold to people who are now built.
No, that is different. That is very different.
It is not
that
different.
is government, which is as a program for its workers,
yes,
which is allowed, and the government, which has a program for its workers. You don't just get that land for free. There are premiums which you pay, and actually there is consideration which you pay.
Yeah.
And once you pay that consideration, you now are entitled to that land in a legal and procedural manner. And you are entitled at the same time to dispose of that land to a third party who does not work with the
What
government.
if I'm a civil servant, I was given ADC land?
If you're given without consideration, that is illegal land allocation.
Allocations which are free, handed out. That's what Eric is trying to distinguish between a procedurally allocated land and land handed out to people as a privilege, as a gift, which without due process.
But even Aban Singh could have bought that land for and paid some premium.
Apparently, there is no evidence to that effect. It was like he was allocated that land in return for perhaps as a favor or something.
Most of these land.
And you see, I think if you even look at the pronouncements by government officials, from the cabinet secretary to the chairperson of the National Land Commission, they have come out very clearly and indicated that as far as they are concerned, this land was allocated illegally to so and so. And look at even the words of the cabinet secretary. In fact, for me, the cabinet secretary was trying to send some coded message to the president when she said, if at all, when she said that she will name the person and resign. That's a coded message. Again, it is a coded message to the public when she says that there is a name behind the name. You know, those are coded messages, and one can be able to pick and know what she's talking about.
Naturally, now because this is going to be a phenomenon, this is a problem the country faces. There are lots of land which exist public, in which the private citizens may have an interest.
Yes.
What is the process? Isn't it the process let me put this out, that if there's land which is public and people would like to use it for a particular purpose, or somebody has an interest,
Yes.
you express that interest, is taken aboard, and the people around there are asked to contribute or to speak about their interest to it, or raise any objections if they have any, before that land is alienated and given to a particular purpose.
Yes, that is, first and foremost, the first cardinal rule is that no public land ought to be allocated to anyone for private gain. That is a cardinal rule.
Right.
There are only rare exceptions where, for particular purposes, a proper procedure is established where everybody who is interested more or less bids. Let me use that word, bids
yes.
for that purpose. But you're not even allocated that land, I mean, as a freehold, like for good.
Yes.
It is a lease.
Yes.
You only lease that land for a particular period of time.
Yes.
So that, you must demonstrate that part of what you're doing, although is private in nature, there's a public, gain.
So yes, I don't understand this contradiction, because there is a hotel there, Western.
Yes.
Which also was part of that Balangata prison. It was the same area.
Yes.
Why are we asking about that to happen in land, but not the one which is Sunshine, which is Amref? Amref, maybe you can say it's public, but Sunshine is a private school.
Yes.
Why are we asking about that to happen in Sengland, and not where the hotel is, and not all the other people?
You see, we do not have a lot of details and evidence as to whether that entire piece of land used to be one.
It was prison.
Land.
Taking us from history.
It's from history.
He's lived long enough to know.
It was
He's a first witness.
When the prison was moved from that Orero.
Yeah.
If that is the case, then the fate of the hotel should be the same fate as the school, Sunshine. Because you cannot now isolate and say that we are going to deal with.
I'm saying, but leave the others.
No.
Those who have developed can be left. Those who haven't developed might be vacated. That's the argument.
I'm saying if you are going to question the allocation of public land, which was that prison land, and many other land anyway, including the railway land, including post office.
As long as, let me tell you, it's only that people there is no resolve on the part of the government, I would say, to address this issue holistically and in a firm manner. The position ought to be that as long as we can be able to trace back and establish that this land was allocated to you illegally, it was public land. The way to go about it is to say, look, we know you have put up development. We may not want this land now as a public land, but since you did not pay for it, we are going to ask you for consideration, either in the current market value, or we give you some discount and you have to pay. That is something which has to be done.
Right.
Yes.
Now that point is well stated.
Yes.
All right. Now let's look at the consequence of the Langata dispersal of the protests.
Yes.
And you came in strongly and said you are going to take action.
Yes.
What is the nature of the action you intended to take, and is that action still valid, or circumstances have since changed?
No, nothing has changed. Why we stepped in immediately is because when we saw rights of the children being violated in that kind of magnitude, we decided that it is very critical for an independent body to follow up these investigations as they go on, because remember, these investigations will be carried out by police.
Right.
And it is against the police. Most of the times, what happens is that where there is an investigation involving police officers, which is carried out by the same police officers, there is bound to be a situation where they are not carried out in a proper manner, a situation where probably there will be cover-up of some sort. And it is very critical for us that we get hold of certain statements, especially for the children who were injured or hurt in the process. We get statements from the teachers themselves, the management of the school, and also from the civil society organizers who organized the demonstration, the protest. When you have that set of evidence, if for one reason or another the prosecution is not carried out in the proper manner, then you can come and say, no, we have also this set of evidence,
Yes.
which is a duplicate of what you have, and this is enough evidence to prosecute.
Yeah.
And if there is no prosecution, then you are now entitled under the law to ask the DPP that give us an opportunity to prosecute privately. That is why we stepped in that manner.
Yeah.
So it is still ongoing. My committee, in fact, is supposed to be launching that report either today or on Monday.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the nature of that event that transpired,
Yes.
what would you be looking at? The criminality or the wrongdoing? What are you spotting for?
We are spotting for two things. One, to make sure that in terms of the disciplinary mechanism, the officers who, one, authorize that kind of action are disciplined. Secondly, the officers who participated in that kind of action are disciplined. That is the disciplinary process.
Right.
But in terms of violating the law,
Yes.
we also pushing for prosecution, that is those persons to be charged with offenses, including offenses related to assault.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Of the
children.
The children.
Yes.
Okay, let's hope. But so far, in terms of enforcing that rule of law there,
Yes.
do you think the government has acted right in the steps up to yesterday?
Well, I agree that, and I commend that the government and the government agencies have come out and they have taken the right steps. But my problem, which I have, and this is from experience, where there are tall persons involved, where there are politicians involved, especially in position of power, what could happen is that there will be compromise. There may be compromise as we move on towards either prosecution or discipline.
Right.
There will be interference from that level, and once that interference steps in, then in 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, nothing will happen. In 1 month, people will forget, and after forgetting, that influence will have achieved its end. Right. That is what is likely to happen. Okay. So the best thing is to keep on systematically checking where have you reached on this, where I've reached on this, so that we don't forget. Because I'm certain that if from what I'm reading, there are persons in authority who are involved, then chances are that those persons will not be prosecuted.
Just talking broadly about the country and the state, because the land issue is very controversial.
Yes.
And the parameters you just set now for annexing or alienating public land and allocating or use of it seem to be violated across the country in terms of the due process. Land, Mutegi mentioned, railway, prisons, all over. Kitale, ADC land, it's gone. Lots of it is gone.
Yes.
That has been the function of initially the Ndungu Land Commission brought out these things.
Yes.
Nothing happened. Now the Lands Commission is grappling with it.
Mm-hmm.
The Minister, Cabinet Secretary Ngilu is also with it.
Mm-hmm.
We saw her demolishing a couple of structures which seem to have violated that whatever.
Yes.
But speaking to the public, across the country, what should people do when these things are happening? What should be the result?
Well, I think the first starting point would be that I do not think that there is any resolve by the government to address those issues.
You are not convinced?
No, there isn't. Because if you look at illegal land allocation, illegal land alienation, or land grabbing, and you do an analysis of the persons who are involved, you will be able to confirm that 90% of the persons who are involved are in position, are in power, they're in authority, either through the government or in politics or other positions. These are the persons who deal with policy. And these are the persons who deal with legislation. Because, I mean, they're in parliament, they're in government, in the executive. And if these are the persons who are affected by that illegality, I do not think that the same persons would want to have that issue addressed conclusively.
Right.
They will just be touching this issue from the periphery. When something like this happens, they will demolish one wall. When this happens, they will go to another one, pinpoint this needs to be done. In another 1 month, that issue will be forgotten. So I don't think that there's any...
You don't think there's full political will and commitment from a governmental perspective to fix that?
There is no political will, there is no policy to address that issue.
Right.
And you asked me what should people do.
Yes.
I'll tell you that I've had a debate with some people who accused me at one point that why is it that I'm not condemning the persons who allowed the children to participate. And what I told them is that first and foremost, there is no illegality if you tell a child or a student that you need to stand up for your rights, you need to picket, you need to demonstrate. There is no illegality in that. Secondly, if these children did not participate in that demolition, if this kind of atrocity was not committed or visited on the children, then I do not think the president would have spoken. I do not think that the cabinet secretary would have disclosed these names. I do not think the National Land Commission would have had the resolve that they have now to have that land revert to the school. I do not think that the perimeter wall which is being put up by the NYS would have been put.
Yes.
So to answer your question, at times when we are able as a country to observe a situation where nothing is being done by the executive because we think that interests are being protected.
Yes.
Sometimes you must move in what other people may call unrealistic or
invoke the citizens' right to self-help and assert your right.
Yes.
Now, that's happening quite a bit across the country. I mean, lots of land. In fact, he mentioned Posta. In my own county, you know, land that was initially owned by Postal Corporation has been given out to people, you know, meaning that also falls in the category of land that we'll be calling illegally allocated.
Yes.
So what should be the process be? Apart from demonstrating, picketing, and saying blocking the constructions, are there mechanisms in law where people can report and seek intervention legally?
Yes.
Due process?
Yes. Yeah. I would expect that the initiative which was started by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission in collaboration currently with the National Land Commission, it is possible to identify all these parcels of land. Land is not something which has no record. Land is something which you can trace its record from the colonial period up to now. Yeah. When there were grants, when they were given by the Crown, you can be able to trace that historically. And if the Ministry of Lands, the National Land Commission, and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption were to formulate a team which will be able to trace back these properties, it is very easy. You don't even need anybody to blow the whistle. You don't need that. Yeah. All you need is to say, where is this land located? And how has it changed hands? What is
there a record? Do you have? Do you trust that these records are available? Seeing the history of Ministry of Lands, even with the cleanup of the registry by the CS Ngilu,
yes,
and the controversy they had with the National Land Commission,
these records.
Do we still have accurate records?
These records are intact. I can tell you. What happens is that once an illegal allocation or allotment has happened, there are persons who would want to probably misplace the original records.
Yes.
But when you look at the document this person has, it can trace you back. It traces back.
So
all you need to do is ask him,
kill
bring
evidence.
your record. You can't kill
the evidence. On land.
No,
land is difficult because every subdivision bears the genealogy of that particular
tell you
title.
Who was the other person?
Now, if that happens, what country are we going to have?
No, we'll be cleaning up.
The dirt is so that there will be no. There have been. What will we be left with?
No, I will tell you, and this is probably my last on this. That say that people like the late Professor Wangari Maathai did not step up on Karura Forest, did not step up on Uhuru Park. Where would we be at the moment? Yeah. So if we say that this is the mess is so much that we cannot deal with it, then what is likely to happen is that somebody tomorrow is going to look for some land for a school and ask for his allocation and sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, the questions, the public are sending quite a few responses and queries, which relate to even some things that Mutegi was asking. Regarding Langata, somebody says, what happened to the land next to Amref, a national bank? Who grabbed it? That question is being asked again, meaning the, Langata Primary School is going to spawn more queries. Yeah. All railway land has been grabbed and is being grabbed. Kitale Primary, you build a petrol station 1 meter on railway line. Where is sanity? That is somebody in Garissa asking, I think, about his own place and so on. Somebody wants you to explain this context. That yesterday, the president said that all government land grabbed should be given back to the public. What does that mean? That's what somebody is saying. Of course, you're not the president, but what is your interpretation of that statement?
Well, sometimes when situations arise of this nature, a little politics steps in. Let me say that.
Yes.
That is a very open statement that all this land must be given back to the schools. But there are mechanisms. But I would want to believe that once the president gives some direction, and the person who is supposed to take or to take up the issue and implement those directions would be ordinarily the cabinet secretary. So we should now be asking the cabinet secretary what steps are being taken. And if no steps are taken, I think the person to ask is not really the president but the cabinet secretary.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then somebody is worried about your opinion and your crusade against the law enforcers.
Yes.
Says, what will happen next time you need police protection and they don't respond because they'll be afraid to be prosecuted because they were at work doing what they had been asked to do?
No, I think the context in which he's asking is a bit, it's not the right context, because we are saying that as long as the police officer carries out his mandate as per the law.
Yes.
As long as in terms of arresting a situation, in terms of preventing crime, you are acting within the law, these situations will never arise.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so as long as they don't exceed the law limits brutally or, procedurally, that's fine.
Yes.
Somebody says, okay, so well spoken from the Law Society of Kenya chairman, but what is at the center of all these transactions is a lawyer.
Yes.
Or illegal transactions in this country happen with the participation of your members.
Yeah.
What are we going to do to tame that from that source? What is the
well, I don't think first the statement is true that all illegal transactions.
No. Let me give you an example.
Yes.
Karura Forest.
Yes.
A law firm, in fact, they split because of that. One lawyer in one law firm went and took part in those companies that were being registered and allocated Karura Forest. In fact, Karura Forest was saved because, apart from Wangari Maathai, the surveyors, the engineers, and all those people who were supposed to do construction there said they will not do it. But lawyers and formed companies, land was allocated, and after allocation, the files got lost. Lawyers are the biggest thieves.
Let me tell you this. Let me tell you this. I'm not defending lawyers as such, but I want also to make the record straight. If you come to me and you ask for me as a lawyer to give my services to register a company for you, a limited liability company for you, and I go to the company's registry, I reserve the name, I go to the company's registry, I get a certificate of registration for you. What you do with that company cannot then be visited on the lawyer. If you take that company to the lands office and you ask for land and you grab land using that company,
but they knew what they were doing.
How does the lawyer come in?
They knew what they were
But
doing.
I'm not denying.
Yeah.
I'm saying that sometimes there are situations where the lawyers would be involved in certain illegalities.
Yes.
Knowingly, and that is a crime.
Yeah.
And one can be able to be prosecuted
Yes.
if they are able to establish that the involvement was done
Professional through
with the
professional
knowledge, yes,
collusion
or negligence. Yes.
Negligence.
Yes.
Yeah. Somebody asked a question with regard to Langata as well. How come the company, that Airport View Limited, is owned by foreigners, is it allowable? How is it registrable in Kenya
They're
when
not
all its
foreigners.
directors are foreign?
No,
Not
no.
foreigners.
You see,
Or they are Kenyans
they are
or with
Kenyans
British
who are,
nationality.
Yes.
I think that's what somebody is not noticing.
Yes,
in that
yes.
when they
Those are
say
Kenyans.
they are not foreigners.
Avan Singh is not a foreigner.
Yeah, he's lived here. He's acquired citizenship or residence. Or
In a
whatever.
first, I think what is trying to ask is
Yeah.
right, that of course initially there is no way you would have all of them foreigners and have that land.
Yeah.
There must be Kenyans.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, the questions coming in are all about this land grabbed, this field grabbed, this one in Mutua-Chair, this one in Malindi, this one in Woodley. You know, I mean, these claims of grabbing, this is a national disaster.
That's what I'm saying. If you get all that land.
Yeah, in fact, the argument is this, Mutua, you may need to respond to this. This is a holistic argument. Somebody says that all land in Nairobi was initially government land, and what happens is people are given 99-year leases to use it, and then it expires and they renew. So then every land can be, allocated.
Yeah.
You see what that person fails to appreciate is that not all allocations are illegal. I've just said there must be consideration.
Yes, due process.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But when you say I've seen this land in railway somewhere and it's idle land, give me that land, and I'm allocated that land and I sell it to somebody else, I must be answerable.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. All this, I mean, I would just basically, maybe you need to address this. There's so many reports about this land now, where Woodville Road, somebody's putting up a block, someone is saying it's by Riverside, they've begun putting up. The question is, you seem to have answered this a bit earlier, saying the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission provides a solution.
Yes.
Wouldn't you be thinking perhaps the Law Society of Kenya of getting involved a little more in the interest of the rule of law, say, in partnership with the agencies involved, to establish a more quicker, rapid response mechanism to assemble all these claims, hotline or something like that? Because these are, people seem to be having problems in this country. They don't know where to take their problems for solutions.
I think I understand that frustration.
Yeah.
And one of the things, and I must acknowledge that this is an exercise which requires a lot of resources. Well, as Law Society of Kenya, we can do as much. And probably we may be thinking of partnering with these other institutions for purposes of just monitoring, because
exactly.
this is not something which we can do, because
As a
there
body,
must be
it's
no
involving.
there
Yeah,
must
we can
be
die in there.
there must be goodwill from the government. There must be goodwill from these institutions we are working with. There must be the need and the resolve also to deploy resources on this kind of exercise.
Yeah.
If
Yes.
you go to London, you see River Thames. It's there next to
Yes.
the city of London. The river is there.
Aye, yes.
When you come to Nairobi, there's no Nairobi River. They built inside and outside the river. the so-called riparian, where you're supposed to leave the space for the river to flow.
Yeah.
And it's built with planning and approvals by the state government. What can you do about that? Or what will be done? The river,
You know,
they have built on it.
sometimes
be
it's a
done?
question of our agencies not executing their mandate in the manner in which they ought to do it. For the Nairobi River, it is very clear. You remember when the Honorable Michuki teamed up with NEMA and started prosecuting persons who had constructed within the river. There was a time when it was clear to some extent. So if NEMA could execute its mandate, it can clear up all that issue on those buildings in the riparian area.
But they are not doing it. So
That is why I say it's a question
this rule of law
of executing your mandate.
Yeah, there's a collapse of the rule of law and enforcement by agencies which are charged with these responsibilities.
Yes.
I mean, what should be done about this
That's
crisis?
why sometimes people think the Law Society is crazy when we say that we need to test certain things in court. We need to be able to, for instance, get the persons who are managing an institution like NEMA and say, you have failed to do this, you have failed to do this, you have evidence of this, and yet you have not performed. And that calls for you are being removed from office because you have failed to do this and this.
Yes.
And I'm sure if a proper suit
Yeah.
is brought to court, And
shouldn't you be
that
starting
happens.
such suits against all agencies because so that they
Yeah.
can be on toes?
The Bureau of
Indeed, I think
Standard,
that is
NEMA.
yes.
You can't do it for all of them because
Yeah.
you can only do as much, as I said.
Okay.
You can only pick some which there is notoriety.
Yeah, there's a lot that is coming in. Somebody seems to have a different history of Langata. He says, having lived in Nairobi West for years, Western Hotel land used to belong to East African Airways. Then Kenya, I think KA, maybe Kenya.
The Airports Authority?
The Airports Authority.
Yes, it's Kenya, KACC.
Probably.
Civil Aviation Authority, Kenya Airports Authority, whatever it is.
But even then, if it was, then it is public land also.
The rest of the land belonged to Langata Primary. Prisons owned the land up to Langata Shopping Center. This is a man called Patrick Ole. He seems to have a good history.
Maybe.
You may need this man in future for. He has lived there. He knows.
By the way, on a very
Good,
serious note,
correct.
the ones who are sending, because our team is still working on those issues,
Yes.
if they can give us this information at the Law Society of Kenya, then we can be able to cross-check to confirm the veracity and the authenticity of
those claims.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of stories and examples come in. Kabete Vet Lab is being allocated as we speak. That is somebody in Ndumbuini, in Umoja, Kakamega, everywhere. Kitale Primary grabbed former students, saying that, and so on.
There's a lot of land, vet land, Kabete Vet Labs.
Yes, and it's always been excised and allocated.
And also, it is important to note that there was, I think the day before, yesterday, there was a workshop on the historical land injustice.
Yeah.
And I think probably that bill, once it gets to Parliament, it's debated in Parliament and it is passed, it may address some of the issues. But my concern is that this law is going to Parliament.
Yes.
And
the Parliament,
you know what is likely to happen in Parliament. It
Yeah.
will come out
Politicians
as
will be, take sides and protect interests.
And by the time you get some law, it will be a law which cannot really
address the problem.
Enforce anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So just the last one, before we get out of this land issue. This is worse in Mombasa. Simakande, Makupa, Changamu, Kwachongu, 1 meter from the railway line. No road expansion can be done. All this land has been taken up. In Karobangi South, the land which was meant for Marigiti Market, which was to be moved there, has been grabbed. This we will send to, I think, we'll copy this mail and all those queries you have, just send them. We'll forward them to the city governor, city county governor, Ivan Skidero, because he's now actively engaged in rescuing land that has been grabbed.
Yes.
But now, just the last one on it, on the land.
Yes.
The collapsing buildings all over the place. People have said failure to enforce the law. And, what are the rights of people who have put up buildings that are being pulled down right now? A lot have been marked X all over, Pipeline, Embakasi. Eastlands is under siege from the city council, city government.
you go back to the county of Nairobi, if it's before the county government, you go to the city council.
City commission.
Because we all know that before you start any construction, there must be approvals. There must be an approval that what you're constructing the right thing and what you're doing is the right thing, and you get an approval to construct.
Yeah.
So if you're asking the recourse,
Yeah.
the recourse basically would be
People are going to seek injunctions against the council for trying to get back
what they have approved.
Yeah.
What they have approved. And in fact, if you demolish property and you give those approvals, the developer has a right to sue the council, the county council, the county. It's a question of trying to make sure that the approval department, it scrutinizes these applications when they come, it scrutinizes the plans, it scrutinizes the architectural drawings, the engineering drawings before they give those approvals. Once that happens, then you will not hear about buildings which have collapsed.
Right.
Persons who have been injured as a result of that, or who have lost lives, they can sue the developer, they can sue the council, they can sue the engineers who are involved and the contractor who was involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We must move away from land because we've opened a land clinic here. The complaints are many. Let's look at the law.
Yes.
You have gone to court a couple of times. You did not support the Security Laws Amendment Act, surprisingly.
We did. We did. I'll tell you this.
You opposed it, that's what I meant.
No, we did not support, yes.
Yes.
There are two things. Personally, and also many lawyers, and I think almost 99% of the lawyers, they were certain that the law as it was enacted, if it goes to the right place, which is the courts for interrogation, chances are that 50% of those provisions would be declared unconstitutional. So for us, we are certain that as far as currently now, we are talking about the judiciary country, I don't think there are judges in the judiciary who would not be influenced by the executive when it comes to constitutional matters. And that is a plus to the judiciary. And we are certain that those judges, when they sit down and look at that law vis-a-vis the constitution, 50% of those clauses will be declared unconstitutional, and that will be the way to resolve the problem. There has been a debate, and I don't want to talk much about it because this matter is in court, about whether the judge could have a jurisdiction
to suspend
those 8 clauses.
Yes.
That is an issue now which is pending before the Court of Appeal. But my response would be that the Constitution gives that mandate. It does.
Yes.
It gives that mandate for conservatory orders, Article 23. And it is like, I was giving someone an example when we had a debate as to whether the court can suspend the law, that the court can only annul the law but not suspend. And I gave them an example where tomorrow Parliament passes a law that Makali should be killed by firing squad on Tuesday, for instance. That is a law which has been passed. And I know that by the time I go to have that declared unconstitutional, you will have been dead. Are you telling me that the court's hands are tied, that it can't do anything?
Yeah.
It will
that
be able to suspend.
Afflicts liberties instantly.
Yes, yes.
So it should not continue to be in operation.
Yes, because during the arguments, it was established, or the applicants were able to prove that prima facie, before interrogating the entire of the law, they have a case. There's a arguable case. There's a way in which what you're saying could be confirmed after we go through the full trial. And so that a lot of harm and damage and violations do not occur in the interim pending that hearing, we can suspend this. That is what the judge did.
Let's wait and see what the Court of Appeal finds on that.
Yes, yes.
You're all before it.
Yes.
But let's go to the arbitration. The Law Society is taken to court by its members. Well, there seems to be a dictatorial streak on the part of the chairman of the Law Society and his council. Okay,
first, I think there's a misconception that the chairman or the president now and his council are dictating to members as to what they need to do.
Yes.
It is very clear, and this also is a matter which is in court. I'm not going to say much, but it is very clear that lawyers over a period of more than 20 years, over a period of, because when the current Chief Justice William Mutunga was the chairperson of the Law Society, they had already discussed that that land ought to be developed. And over a period of time, that discussion and resolutions have been made in previous AGMs, or annual general meetings. And in particular, the annual general meeting for 2012-2013, they were very specific as to what needs to be constructed. It's only in the special general meeting when now lawyers passed a resolution that for us to construct, we do not need to go and borrow the entire money from the bank, because we'll pay interest over a long period of time. And since lawyers have been blessed with some finances, it is good. That is how the debate. It was good that we make a resolution that every lawyer contributes a certain amount of money. If you are a lawyer who is over 20 years of practice, you contribute 50,000 shillings at a go. If you are a lawyer who is below 20 years but not below 50, between 5 years and 20 years, you contribute 39,000 shillings, but you pay that money in 2 installments, that is 2-yearly installments, this year and next year. If you are below 5 years, you pay 39,000, but you pay that money within 3 years. You pay 13,000 the first year, 13,000 the next year. Now the dispute is this. The dispute is that there are some who were not in the annual general or in the special general meeting who have said that you cannot enforce that payment. You can't force me to contribute money.
Yes. However small it is.
Yes, however small that money is, and I do not want to contribute because you are forcing me to pay this money because you are telling me if I do not pay, I don't get a license to practice. That is a valid argument. I've no doubt about it.
In court, the dispute, what you are saying is, and what are they saying?
The dispute in court,
yes,
they are saying that although the resolution has been passed at the special general meeting for this kind of money to be paid,
yes,
the special general meeting cannot force me to pay that money. And the Law Society Council, which now implements a decision of the general meeting, the council cannot now tell me that when I'm paying for the annual subscription, the money which you pay annually to get a license to practice, you must also pay this money. We are lumping them together. They're saying you can't do that. You should not tie them together. You should not tie them together. Yes. You should let me pay for on my own volition. Yes. Yes. But we are also, our argument in court is that if you are in the minority, you must follow what the majority are saying. Yes. If the majority are saying everybody must put it pay, together, then you pay. Okay. But that is an issue we are waiting for it to be resolved. Right. The other issue which is in court is that they say, okay, allow us to pay, but we want this to be converted into shares. We don't want to be philanthropic and pay this money just like that. We want it to be converted into shares so that we can benefit. But there are some lawyers also who are arguing that that may not be a viable option because remember, shareholding, because this is a property for the Law Society of Kenya. Shareholding means when I die and I do not have a lawyer in my family, those shares will revert to an unlawyer. Yes. And eventually, 70 years to come, or 50 years to come, the shareholders will be other persons other than the Law Society. And they can wake up tomorrow and say, we are selling. And yet, it has our secretariat, and it has an arbitration center. Yes. Okay. Yes.
Finally, because our time is up, we cannot leave without talking about that matter at home.
The coal mining.
The Mui coal mines. Yes, because I've even seen people saying that, Eric Mutua is not holy. He should be the least talking about land because, okay, in a nutshell, in let's say under 2 minutes.
Yes, yes.
What are, again, specify, what are the issues and what is your role in the Mui land?
What's your involvement?
My involvement is that we agitated and the former cabinet secretary, the former minister for energy, Kiraitu Murungi, constituted a committee called the Liaison Committee, whose mandate is to liaise between the community, the government, and the investor in terms of the interests of the community. And I chair that committee. That is my involvement. And my involvement so far has been to make sure that the infrastructure in terms of the agreement which would be executed to mine the coal as clauses which would protect the community. That is why we have been always talking about the fact that there is an agreement to have an addendum. Other than what was agreed, there are issues about 12 items which we need included in the agreement, including what we call the resettlement action plan. In the agreement, the original agreement, the resettlement action plan is supposed to be agreed upon between the investor and the government without involving the local community. And we have indicated in that addenda that we need now to have this resettlement action plan agreed between the three parties, the community, the investor, and the national government.
What's the number of families involved? Sorry, the community, the population?
We are looking at households, and the population is about the ones to be affected within the basin. We are looking at a population of about 45,000. 45,000.
So what's going to happen to them? They get land elsewhere?
No, that has not been, because there's not much progress which has been made towards resettlement, because there are still issues of the contractual document which are being discussed. We have not even gone to the extent of understanding how much should be paid or compensated. We've not gone to that because that involves going to the resettlement action plan, which has not been discussed.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, we have to conclude there. Thank you very much, Eric, for coming to join us. We hope to have this again in 3 months' time.
Thank you.
You're our doctor, so we occasionally check the health of the state in
Yes.
our country in terms of the rule of law. So many questions and reports made about the land grabbed from all over the country, Makongeni to wherever. We will try and pass this on to the relevant authorities if they can intervene. That's all we can do here. Thank you for watching Power Breakfast. Over to Nick Kosovo and more music.